Welcome back to my channel, and today I want to talk about the radiolink transmitter, in particular about AT10. The main reason is because I had this transmitter for about 5.5 months, and I did use this transmitter this period on constant basis, and I can tell a few words about it. Obviously, the best would be to use something for about a year, then it is possible to talk a little bit more about the quality. However, 5.5 months constant basis, you can judge yourself. Well, the main reason I got this transmitter was I was looking for something more affordable than Futaba's receivers. I have a Futaba transmitter, but the receivers are pretty expensive. I was looking for something cheaper where I can get and just check on my neutrons and test them. So I thought I will give a shot for radiolink. Eventually I got AT10, this is AT9. I just would like to compare them. It belongs to one of my friends. And these two radios are pretty similar, and this one is 10 channel and this one is 9 channel radio. If we were to switch them on, you'll see that the display looks very similar, and indeed the only one difference between I would say there are three main differences between these two radios, a part of the design. The software, this radio here, AT9 software, is newer than AT10. Then this is 10 channel radio, and this is 9 channel radio. And then another big difference is the antennas here. I believe AT9 has 2 dB antenna, and this is a 3 dB antenna, which has an impact on the range. And if you were to have a look here, this is R9D receiver, which comes in a box if you were to buy one of these radios. So for example, if you were to use this receiver with AT10, it would give you about 2 kilometers of range, and AT9 would give you about 1.5 kilometers of the range, which is pretty good. About the batteries, this is the battery case, which comes together with the radio AT10 or AT9. And if you were to have a look closer, you'll see that you would need 8 batteries, 1.5 volts, 8 batteries. And initially I got 8 batteries, and I use it with AT10. However, the batteries were drained very fast, and I was thinking to get rechargeable batteries. But later I thought, well, I'm not going to do it. I will not buy 8 rechargeable batteries of better quality. It would cost me a lot of money. So the good advantage about this radio is that the working current is 7 or 7.5 up to 16 volts. So what I did, I just used one of my old 3S batteries, 1500 milliwatts, and it is plugged directly to the radio. It works absolutely fine. I stick it here because this space here is not really the standard one, and I found pretty hard to put any batteries. I do have, so it is outside. It doesn't bother me a lot. It works good. So one of the main disadvantages, I would say, is the battery case. I think anyway it's useless. So another thing here to mention is this receiver, which I normally use while flying racing drones or micro drones. It is really tiny. It costs not a lot. It's pretty affordable receiver. Weighs 4.5 grams, and if you were to remove the pins, it weighs just 2 grams. So great news for the micro quads. There is a ppm as well. when I got this this receiver, I was a little bit confused how to connect it to the radio. So I'll show you how to do it, because there is no information in the manual. I will use here UBEC. Let's plug it in. All right. And it is plugged, and obviously this receiver was already connected to this radio. Actually, that's number one. So if you were to do it yourself, what you would need to do, you would find here there is little button, as well as on this radio here there is a little button on the side. So what you need to do, you need to press it and hold it for a bit longer, for a few seconds, until you see the flashing light. The flashing light indicates that the linking, the receiver and transmitter are in linking process. It's pretty fast and it is already linked. So as I said before, there is a ppm and pwm. You can choose, and how to switch between these two is pretty easy. You just press twice the button, and well, it took me some time, but you see that it changed the color to red one, and the red light indicates PWM. And if we press 2 times, it changes to sort of bluish purplish color. The light changes the color, and this bluish purplish color indicates ppm connection. If we were to have a look at the radio itself, as you see, there are some switches. I think there are three channel switches, 4 2-channel switches, H switches similar to a Futaba one. There are 2 sliders on the sides, which I don't use, 3 knobs. And if you were to look at the menu here, it looks very similar. Well, let's not lie and pretend we don't know. It looks very similar to Futaba. Generally, in this 5.5 months, I didn't have any problems using this transmitter. Obviously, I try to take good care and try to be careful with radios or goggles. So 5.5 months, no problems. Obviously, I would not try to compare this radio to a Futaba radio. That's totally different price, totally different performance, totally different parts used, probably totally different process of collecting and putting the parts together. So I think it does not make any sense. However, I think if you are the beginner and you're looking to get sort of affordable radio, I think that's not bad, especially if you're not sure you really want to get into the drone, into this hobby. You just maybe want to try and sometimes play. You're not like 100% into it, that you just want to have like a toy and sometimes to play. I think that's pretty good option in my opinion. Because of the price, the receivers are pretty cheap, and if you were to compare the price to let's say Taranis, it's twice as cheap, I think, as Taranis, so, and 3 times I think as cheap as Futaba 10 channel radio. So eventually I think for this price, well, I wouldn't argue about like these switches here, that they are a bit wobbly, and you see one of these cursors, the cursor is wobbly too, but in comparison to the price, I think, well, it does the job, and I think it will last 1 year without any problems. Hopefully it will get up to 2 years. I will see, and definitely in the future I will update you on this radio and tell you how it does.